Hey guys, here's Natalia, the founder of Upskill Me, and I'm inviting you to join this video presentation where I would like to share two interesting for me, aspects of clarity. How can we as non-native speakers achieve more clarity when we speak English? I am creating, exploring, applying, and teaching the methodology of achieving native-like fluency, and I just want to share something with you. This is how I explain it to myself, and this is what is helping me. As non-native speakers, I think it's important for us to communicate our ideas with more clarity, but very often we just don't know the word. We don't know the right word. Sometimes we don't know that this concept even exists in another language, or sometimes we're trying to explain the concept that exists in another language and there is a term for it, but instead of saying that term or saying that word that is very clear and immediately evokes the right image in the mind of a native speaker. Instead, we end up explaining something using long, rambling sentences, and we just talk and talk about it, trying to find the right words, and we end up saying too many sentences, while in fact, there is one precise word for that. Sometimes we just don't know the word. This is why we need to be attentive, and the more precise words we choose, the easier it is for us to achieve clarity. I'm going to walk you through examples in the next slides. Be attentive to how native speakers talk, because sometimes you're trying to explain something that exists in their world and they have a word for that, using words and ideas that you're translating from your first language, and this doesn't always work. And the second tip is use better verbs and adjectives. What do I mean by better verbs? Most non-native speakers, even advanced level students, when they have to explain their ideas fast or in spontaneous conversations, they resort to the most readily available verbs and words that, they have in their active memory, short-term memory maybe. Many people call it active vocabulary. And the verbs that they use are have, make, do, go, get, and that's it. Sometimes I hear people say something like, I had a presentation, I have a webinar, I have small talk, or we had small talk. And it's not really clear if, well, first of all, you make small talk, or sometimes you can say, look, we don't do small talk, we just go straight to business. But you make small talk, have adds only a certain level of confusion that you probably don't want in your conversations. And when you say I have a lecture or I have a webinar, I'm not really sure. Did you host a webinar or did you listen to an online class? Did you participate in an online class? What was it? Oh, some people also say I had an interview. Again, you have to specify you had a job interview, or what do you mean? Or did you give an interview, or did you interview someone? It's confusing because you are giving people a job to understand what is it that you wanted to say. This is why we want to aim at stronger verbs. When I say stronger verbs, I mean they're more precise, they're more vivid, they add more energy to your sentences. And weak verbs, they suck the energy from your sentences. Adjectives are also important, but in this video, I'm going to focus on verbs only, and I'm going to show you examples from what real students say and real non-native speakers. For example, yes, now we're talking about precise wording. For example, what is this? What color is this? Sometimes people try to describe a color and they go like, oh, it is pink. It is something between purple and pink. It is light purple. It is violet. And it's really hard for people to get what color you mean. What is the color? What is the color of the umbrella? If you don't know the right word, you end up describing it using more words than necessary, which is not bad. This is what you should do if you lack vocabulary, but you absolutely need to explain this to a native speaker. But trust me, in this particular situation, even if you try very hard and you say something between pink and violet and lavender, whatever, probably most people will not get it anyway. Or maybe people will if they're really good with colors. But as soon as you say the precise word, people will hear it. And the word is mauve. That's mauve. Everything in this picture is mauve. This is what I mean by precise wording. One word is enough. And you immediately plant the image in the head of a native speaker, in the mind of a native speaker. They immediately see the same picture that you see. And when we communicate, especially when we present, especially when we write marketing materials for people, we don't want just to show them words. We don't want to tell them words. Our job is to make sure they see what we see. We have to send the entire image, and we have to plant that image in their mind. And then we're on the same page. And once you've done so, you also want to check your understanding and to check their understanding. Are you 100% positive they see the same image and the same color and everything is arranged the same way? It's very important to check understanding. But that would be one example. Now, another example. Imagine you see this. What do you call this? What is happening in the picture? This is a very cool exercise. Just go to any random image generator and explain to yourself, what do I see? What is in the picture? I showed this picture to a few people, and the words I heard were kind of this: a squirrel, a tree, eating food, people on a plate. And you see what's happening in the mind of a non-native speaker when you're not sure, because the first thing you're trying to remember, oh, what's the name for this thing? You know, like we go, oh, what's the name for this thing? What is the squirrel eating? And maybe you don't even remember the name of the animal. What's the name for this part of the tree? You know, you start looking for words, and as you start looking for words, on the one hand, you're trying to find your focus. On the other hand, you're losing focus because you're distracted and you're thinking about words now, right? Instead of communicating the meaning, not just words. Because at this level, you're giving people a lot of words because you're looking for words, you're thinking out loud, and these are the words that come to mind. But you see, these words don't really communicate the meaning. People who will listen to a bunch of words which are not connected and given to them in this sequence, they will probably not even understand what it was about, right? This is why attentiveness is the number one skill that we practice in the system of achieving native like fluency. You always want to be attentive to native speakers and pay attention to how they say it. And look, the reason why you need to do this exercise is very simple. Once you see a picture and you find yourself unable to describe it precisely, that's okay. That is normal. We do not have the time to self-correct ourselves or to learn new words at the moment of speaking. At the moment of speaking, we have to speak, we have to communicate, and we have to get our message across. We always self-correct our speaking patterns and the way we talk after we are done talking. We remember what we said and we remember what we wanted to say, and then we go and do additional work after the conversation, after the Zoom call, after the situation where you messed up a big deal. You go and find a better way to say the same thing, to communicate the same idea. And the next time, you use what you have learned. So let me show you how it works. I'm just going to share my screen. An easy way to find out the wording, find out what it actually is okay, what is the squirrel doing? Most non-native speakers will say it's eating, and okay, eating, eat from a plate. This is what I heard from people, and this is what they would say. Let's see if this is what native speakers actually say, and maybe let's add a squirrel because we want to let Google know that we're looking for an animal eating from a plate or whatever. How to kill a squirrel, how horrible, and eat it. Oh my God. But what I usually do is I just Google my own ideas and I try to find better wording. Okay, you see, baby squirrel trying to eat food from a guy's plate. Yes, you can eat food from someone's plate. What else do we see here? I'm just showing you what it looks like in real time. Um, maybe not squirrel, but let's just keep it this way. Eat from a plate. Or I want to call her a squirrel she, let it be a squirrel girl. She's eating fruit. So let's be more specific. Eat fruit from a plate. Do native speakers say that? So you can arrange fruit on the plate. That works. Eating from a shared plate, but she's not eating from a shared plate. What else do we see here? Okay, I don't see any good examples. So I see that you can say eat from a plate. That was in the video. And there are not really many examples here, but I saw that it's possible. Another resource that I recommended already in previous videos is this: eat from a plate. Phrase it. Let's see if we can see this exact word combination. It's easier because it gives us more precise options. Eat from a plate while served at a table, making it a rule to only eat from a plate. So a squirrel is eating from a plate. We can definitely say that so, but I remember that I heard native speakers say eat off. Look at this. Should you eat off a chipped plate? I only eat off of a blue plate. Why eating off a dark blue plate can help you slim. This is south.com. Like an article written by native speakers. A guy eats off your plate. Everybodyknow.com. Do waiters ever eat the leftover food off of your plate? Okay, so let's try to change the preposition. Eat off a clean plate. If your pet won't eat off a clean plate, try offering a little on the tip of your finger. You see, pets can eat off a clean plate. Usually with finger foods, we eat off a communal plate. The passengers eat food off, you see? You eat food off a stranger's plate at a restaurant. Both prepositions work because we see that native speakers actually use both variants, so they both will work. I will stick with, I will remember that. I like off more, but you can definitely say from a plate. Let's go back to our squirrel. What is this part of the tree called? Again, I just want to Google my own idea. I explain it the best way I can. I think I already Googled it earlier today. Bottom part of the tree. What is the bottom part of a tree called? And I see the lower part of the tree, which come from the ground, is the trunk, a bow. And actually, let's look at this. Is the trunk. I just want to make sure because this is answers.com. I'm not sure what people recommend here. So I'm going to Google a tree trunk and check myself. What does it actually look like? Yes, found is a tree trunk. This is what it looks like. Mossy tree trunk image. Tree trunk moss. Okay. Just to be on the safe side, I want to Google the definition of trunk. The trunk is the stem and main wooden axis of a tree. This is what a tree trunk is. And coming back to this picture, I think what is above could be called a tree trunk, but here I see the roots, right? The roots of the tree. And the roots are above the ground as well. So tree trunk, roots, maybe we will find an explanation of what tree trunk roots. Wow, stock photos. How to spot tree root trunk decay, tree trunk roots. Okay, this is stock illustrations. This doesn't count. We need something in the context. When damaged, tree roots. We can say tree roots. We can say tree trunk. Wonderful. I have found something that I need. And when I know the precise wording, it's easier for me to explain what's happening in the picture. And if I explain it, it's going to look like this. A squirrel is eating fruit from a plate that someone must have intentionally put there. We can also say off a plate. The plate is sitting on the roots of a tree. We can only see the roots and part of the trunk of the tree. And I think it's perfectly okay to add something that explains how you experience this picture. What do you see here? For example, I added here that someone must have intentionally put there, someone must have intentionally put the plate here and put fruit on a plate for the squirrel. Now, here comes the interesting part. Remember, we spoke about 2 tips to achieve more clarity. One was precise wording. We just looked at that. And the second one was better verbs. These are real sentences that I heard from real students, and I just want to show you what can be done. Student A says, I like to cook and they like to eat it. And then the student continues talking about their cooking habits and how they cook for their family. And it's always, these words repeat: cook, eat, cook, eat. I cook and they eat. When I cook, they eat. When I don't cook, they don't eat. And they like to eat. And my question is, what if we replace it with a better verb, a slightly different verb? I remember a conversation with my British friend who said, I think it was bragging that I could cook very well. And he told me, you know what, I'm not very good at cooking, but I'm a very appreciative eater. And I asked myself, what if we replace the word cook, the word eat, with appreciate? I like to cook, and again, more precise wording means you are more specific than just they. And my family, or whoever you're talking about, my girlfriend, my family, my children, and my family, I say my children, because children don't always appreciate what you bake for them or what you make for them. How about this? I like to cook and my children appreciate. I don't want to leave it here because what is it? It's not really clear. Maybe, again, for the purpose of sounding more clear, we probably want to add something more specific. How about homemade food? Because this is true. If you like to cook for your family and for your children are learning to appreciate homemade food. I like to cook and my children appreciate homemade food. You might even add, and my children are learning to appreciate, if this is necessary, but this is optional, right? Or my children appreciate homemade food. This immediately sounds like clearer because you give us a little bit more context about the situation, and it just sounds more natural as well. Another student said today, I'm not ready to do it starting from Monday and for 6 months. Again, when a student tries to explain something quickly and right now, and they feel the urge to respond immediately, they use the words that they know. And all these words are correct here, but it's not really clear what they meant, because I know what they meant, and they meant I'm not ready to commit. Instead of do, we can say commit. I'm not ready to commit to eat. Again, what is eat? The person meant course, and we can say I'm not ready to commit to the course starting from Monday. Again, for 6 months, maybe I'm not ready to commit to a 6-month course, right? And we'll remove that. I'm not ready to commit to a 6-month course starting from Monday. You see, we replaced do with a more precise word, commit. And the situation is now so much clearer. We understand what a person is talking about. And you only need one sentence, and you only need to change verbs in the sentence. Very often it's enough to change a verb, and it all becomes a lot clearer, and people can see exactly what you want to show them. Let's take a look at more examples. A person was describing their vacation, and a person said, we suffered from inability to find good food. Suffer from is used in different contexts. So if you Google the word combination suffer from, maybe not suffer, let's probably not, we can Google it, but I suggest we go here. Remember this place, suffered from, and you can teach yourself in what context is this word used by native speakers. Have a look. They suffered from manic depression, suffered from confusion and conflict in messages, suffered from the psychological effects of solitary confinement, suffered from numerous medical problems, suffered from diabetes, suffered from too little research. It's not really that context that we need. I can't say that they suffered. Maybe a better word would be struggled. Of course, not from. You struggle with something. But again, inability. We struggled with finding a good place to eat. I wouldn't say good food because that was not true. He was talking about restaurants, and it's not good food, it's a good place to eat or a good restaurant. But again, I don't like we struggled with finding a good place to eat, even though it sounds already better. But native speakers will probably say something like, we had a hard time. We had a hard time finding a good place to eat. We had a hard time finding a good place to eat. It means it wasn't easy. And all the places we saw were not okay for us. Were not, they didn't match our standards. We were looking for something different, and all the places were just, not good enough. Here's an example of how a verb changes everything and how a verb can be very confusing. And one more example, the problem is in different things. A student was trying to explain that the root of the problem is not in this situation. And the verb to be is used here. The problem is in different things. If I really want to understand this person, I will. And that's okay. Look, people understand you even if you use words incorrectly because they want to understand you and because they appreciate communication with you. However, I also believe it's our responsibility to speak with more clarity and to help people understand us, especially when we're non-native speakers and we use English to communicate not only with native speakers, but with everybody who uses English as the international language of business. And when it's used internationally, there are some universal rules that everybody follows. And I think it's just not okay to impose your rules and to give everybody a job to figure out what it is that you want to say or what it is that you meant to say, just because your first language is different. We have to follow some universal rules. This is okay, but what if we say the problem lies elsewhere? I think it immediately becomes clearer. So this is pretty much what I wanted to share with you today. 2 tips to speak with more clarity when you speak English: more precise wording and stronger, better verbs. How to cultivate this habit and how to find all these strong verbs that can help you make your message crystal clear. Be more attentive to how native speakers talk. When you watch a video, when you listen to a podcast, pay deliberate attention to the verbs they use, especially eloquent, articulate speakers that you like. Pay attention to how they talk. They all use very precise wording and they use very good verbs. And my second tip would be check every idea that you have. You might come up with a lot of good ideas, but if you don't check them, if you don't make sure that native speakers would understand you if you said this, you may end up going in the absolutely wrong direction, and you may end up sending people in the wrong direction when you talk. You'll be confusing people instead of getting clear on what you actually want from them or what you want them to understand. Clarity, to me at least, means clarity of thought. It's our job to articulate our thoughts with clarity. We simply unpack our thoughts into words when we speak. But it all starts right here with the way we think. And if our thoughts are messy, if our thoughts are abrupt, and we drop one idea halfway and we start a new idea, we end up translating exactly these abrupt half thoughts into English. And it doesn't always work out. So be more attentive, check all your ideas, and let's talk in the comments. Thank you very much for watching.